Alright guys, it's time to get down to business by talking about business. Kind of did a little bit of a brief introduction with economics. Now we're going to kind of narrow our field a bit and talk specifically about business. So time to focus a little bit closer on this concept of business. Let's say business a lot because we got business to take care of. Anywho, we've learned about the three types of economies. We've learned about the three factors of production. Actually, we've learned a bit in 2 days, so you should definitely pat yourself on the back. But now let's focus in. People get degrees in economics, and they specifically get degrees on specific aspects of economics. So there's a lot underneath this tree when it comes to economics. And today we're going to be focusing on business, specifically in a market economy. I know we've learned traditional command and market economies and how different countries have different economies. We're going to focus specifically on our country because if you're in a command economy, this means nothing to you because you wouldn't own it anyways. So let's talk about today about competition. Just like these businessmen are literally running laps around a track while on a business conference of some sorts on their laptops, let's talk about this idea of competition. Now, in a market economy, inside the economy that we have in the United States, the idea of competition is vital because companies that compete with each other will better satisfy the wants of a consumer, which ultimately promotes prosperity. The old saying in economics is competition promotes prosperity. Competition promotes prosperity. And if you know anything about competitions, you know competitions get heated, like people on a field day in PE trying to get like the blue ribbon prize to win and stuff like that. Competition can get a little nasty. But I'm telling you guys in economics, competition is a good thing because it promotes prosperity. Now you might be thinking, these two guys are literally fighting over a golden money sign. How can that be good for anybody? Well, let's find out. Here's an example of phones. Phone makers are constantly in a battle with each other to make the next best, greatest phone. Every year they're coming out with a different version of the phone so that way they can keep up with the competition. iPhone every year is making new iPhones because they don't want people to suddenly start buying like Samsung Galaxies or other types of phones that are out there. You get the idea. So the reason iPhone keeps making or excuse me, Apple keeps making better iPhones is because it's in a competition with other companies. And that's a good thing for you guys, hence the prosperity. Because if iPhone or Apple didn't have competition, what would stop them from continuing selling the original iPhone? Now that looks really dated by nowadays, and you see there's many better options than that phone on the screen, but you get the idea. If there was no competition in an economy, then at the end of the day, iPhone, Apple, Samsung, they wouldn't make better products. And that's the prosperity. Because of this competition, you guys get a better product out of it, a better iPhone. Now, another example would be gas. So not all products are things that can be changed. Gasoline has not changed a whole lot since it was first dug up in the ground with the Rockefellers and all that different stuff. But competition can still promote prosperity there. And the simple thing there is the price of the things. Take a look at like if you had two gas stations next to each other. You had one that had it for $1.98 a gallon and you had one for $1.87 a gallon. Which one are you going to go to, assuming they're selling the same type of gas? The one that's cheaper. You see how it's promoting prosperity for you, the consumer? You get cheaper gas out of it. So when companies are competing with each other, that is a good thing, and that promotes prosperity for you guys, us, the consumers. Now, when it comes to that, let's talk about profit a little bit. The reason companies do all this and they fight each other and make better iPhones and better gas prices and all that different stuff is because they ultimately want to make more money. They got to give you reasons to buy the next iPhone. They got to give you reasons to buy more gas, all that different stuff. Now, the definition of profit is simply the difference between the total cost of a production of a good and total revenue received. The formula is pretty simple. Revenue minus cost equals profit. So revenue, how much you make, cost, how much did it cost to make that thing, will equal how much you profit. This can be a negative thing. And obviously, if it's a negative profit, do you think those companies are going to stay in business long? No. Here are your first notes on competition promoting prosperity as well as the formula for profit. Now, let's talk about supply and demand now. I just put a chart up here where you see a line that says S and a blue line going down that says the letter D. That's the supply and demand chart. And you have price and quantity as well. Now, supply and demand is one of the most fundamental concepts when it comes to economics. It's the idea that as things become less available, more demand is there. And as things become more available, less demand will be there, and the price will change. Let me give you a hypothetical situation of how that works. Let's take two things into account, water and gold. I know they are not very similar, but you'll see why I'm doing this in a second. The average cost for a gallon of water in the United States is approximately $1.22 a gallon. It's not super expensive. Now, gold, on the other hand, prior to this COVID-19, was trending around $1,400 an ounce. Nowadays, who knows? So let's compare the price of water and gold. So a gallon of water weighs 8 pounds, 16 ounces in a pound, 128 ounces for 8 pounds. So in our situation, if we were to compare apples to apples, 1 gallon of gold or 1 gallon's weight equivalent to gold to the equivalent of 1 gallon of water, a gallon of water would be $1.22 a gallon. 8 pounds of gold is $179,200. Which one's more expensive? You decide which one do you want. Do you want the 8 pounds of gold or do you want the 8 pounds of water? Which one do you ultimately want? Which one's more valuable? I mean, most middle schoolers would be like, I'll take the 8 pounds of gold, Mr. Shoens. Well, that's fine. I'm going to pick the 8 pounds of water. And I'm going to prove to you how I'm going to be more better off than you depending the circumstances, where the water will be worth more than the gold. I just need to change one little variable. Let's change the variable and say we're at Niagara Falls. Not going to be our end destination, but let's just say we're there. And I'm sitting there with a gallon of water, and you're there with your 8 pounds of gold. Now, Niagara Falls is one of the biggest waterfalls in the world. In this scenario here, a gallon of water is still going to be worth about $1.22 a gallon, if not less, because Niagara Falls, you literally take a cup and there's water there. Gold would still be worth $179,200. But let's change the variable one more time. Let's say we went to the Sahara Desert. You guys were tricked, and you had a situation where it's like, hey, I was given this vacation, and you ended up in the Sahara Desert, and life is miserable for you now. You have your bag full of gold. It rains very little in the Sahara Desert. You can go an entire year without seeing a single cloud in the sky, and the temperatures range around 104 degrees Fahrenheit on average. Not high, not low, average. And you keep walking in that desert. And you're walking, there's no shade, lots of heat, no rain. You walk for a period of 2 days before you reach a town. And then you meet this man right here, the only person in that town with a well of water. You go up to the man and ask him for simply a glass of water. Keep in mind you haven't had water for a couple days, and you will eventually die if you do not get water. The man agrees to give you a glass of water in exchange for your bag of gold. Let's think about this, Mr. Shoens. Anywhere else around the world, that gold would be thousands of times more valuable than this water. However, because of the reality that the human body can only go 3 days without water, you wait any longer and you'll be a corpse with a bag of gold. And then simply they'll just take the bag of gold from you at that point because you're dead. So in that scenario where you are in the Sahara Desert and you have a bag of gold and you are dying of thirst, literally dying of thirst, which one's more valuable, the gold or the water? None of that gold will not buy you a second more of time, but it can buy you in that scenario a glass of water, which will help. That's the concept of supply and demand. Now, demand is the amount of a product or service that the buyers are willing and able to buy at different prices. So if you notice in this chart here with the blue line, when the blue line is at its highest, that P variable is price. When you're in the Sahara Desert and you're dying of thirst, the demand for water is there's no chance of it being any higher. And look what it did to price. Price is at its highest. So, and that works for anything in economics. Depending on how much something is wanted, how much demand there is, will change how the price is. Now, the example I'll give you is the new iPhone when it comes out. When the new iPhone comes out, Everybody wants a new iPhone. However, there's only a certain amount of iPhones available at launch. Have you ever noticed that some people are willing to pay more for things than what they're suggested to be paid for? How some people will pay hundreds of dollars more for an iPhone simply because it's out of stock or not readily available? That's because there's a huge demand for it, and the price went up for it at that point. Same with toilet paper with this whole COVID-19 situation. Toilet paper normally is not a very expensive commodity and usually plentifully available. However, when it suddenly there was a huge demand for it, the prices went sky high. Now, there's your notes for demand. And obviously the biggest thing is when there's more demand than supply, the prices will go up. Now, when it comes to supply, it's the same thing here. You notice the red line there, where the S is the highest or the red line is the lowest. Notice also compared to the blue line, the demand. When the supply is at its lowest, the price is the highest and the demand is its highest. But when the supply is at its highest, demand is at the lowest and the price is also at the lowest. That's the inverse relationship with supply and demand. They change. The more of there is of a supply of something, the less people are going to want it. That's why you see stuff where it's like sales and stuff like buy one, get one free and stuff like that. How does that work? When a manufacturer produces more things than what people want, they will have a surplus at that point. Now, at that point, manufacturers don't want to keep a warehouse full of iPhones, which might sound cool for a YouTube video, but for Apple, they want to make money. So what they'll do is they'll lower the price and try to get rid of the supply. Here's how it can work price-wise. If the iPhone was set at $5,000, how many people would want to buy an iPhone at $5,000? I most certainly wouldn't. At $1,000, would you buy that iPhone? Yeah, maybe it'd be expensive. Yes, you'd have to budget accordingly, but okay. But at $100, would you buy that iPhone? More people would be raising their hands at that point because at that price, of course. So reducing the price increases the demand. So supply notes right here. Obviously, the more supply there is, then demand prices will go down. Now, supply and demand, you can kind of see how the inverse relationship when it comes to supply and demand now. If there's more supply than demand, prices will be down. If there's more demand than supply, prices will be up. If there's less of supply, there might be more demand because people want it. If there's a surplus of supply, maybe people won't want it because everybody can get it. Well, the thing when it comes to business is you want to be at the middle, known as market price. That's when the perfect amount of supply equals the perfect amount of demand. Enough people are buying enough of the supply. That's where you want to be as a business. You don't want to be where there's too much demand versus supply because that means you're not making as much money as you could possibly be making because people wanting iPhones doesn't actually get them buying iPhones if there is no iPhones to be bought. And then the worst situation is if you had too much supply, obviously. If there's no demand and a ton of supply, that's a horrible, horrible thing to be in. Market price is where you want to be if you're running a business one day, where the perfect amount of supply meets the perfect amount of demand. And that's what market price is. Good job today, guys. I know this is a bit of a interesting topic to talk about as well as a difficult one for 7th graders, but I know you guys can handle it. If not, email me. I can explain it better. Tomorrow we'll be talking a little bit more about businesses and the different types of businesses. Stay tuned.